on something that we had covered in the first part of our segment, where we were talking kind of about the differences between devices and perceived value for trade-ins. But so how does that come back around in terms of used device pricing and all of that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the used device pricing, in general, for example, our company gathers information about used device pricing, and we make sure that that is known for everybody. There are two aspects to this. One is the trade-in value, and the trade-in value dictates what the used device pricing is going to be, and vice versa, because you don't want to be paying a consumer like $200 if that device cannot carry an ASP of $200 further down the road. Right. The grade of the device matters. Apple commands the premium amongst the brands, followed by Samsung, LG, and others. But the A-grade devices go for the highest possible value. Then if it's a repair grade device, they've got lower value. But even the repair grade devices command a higher value in an overseas market where labor costs are lower for refurbishing those devices as opposed to US or Western Europe.
Okay. And so we've also seen, in addition to Apple and Samsung, who kind of dominate the market, we've also seen Google jump into this space. And that's kind of been an interesting entrance. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, they initially entered the market with the help of other OEMs before they went with the Pixel. And those were more mid-tier devices, like the Nexus 4 and the Nexus 5. And even, I would say, Nexus 6P was kind of their first, foray after the original Nexus device into the high end. Right. But it was a really low volume device, and admittedly they didn't really market it much. And now with the Pixel, you see them going for flagship, high ASP, large screen OLED. They pretty much, went for every single feature they could think of that would make it a premium tier device. And the prices are there, right? People, when they first launched the Pixel devices, they weren't really sure if Google could command that premium. Because before, the Nexus devices were actually pretty inexpensive.
Other Pixels or other Android devices, we saw a lot of iPhones being traded in exchange for a Pixel 2.0 as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know obviously Google has an entire ecosystem. They have, the Google Assistant, and that goes into the home. But let's also talk about some of the IoT devices that are coming out, wearables, and all the other accessories and other devices consumers are buying in addition to their smartphones. I mean, let's talk about the interplay between smartphones and wearables.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing to talk about because, I would actually say, broader IoT, people are making decisions about what kind of IoT devices they buy based on the smartphone that they have. And having a Google Pixel and having Google home speakers, there's so much integration there that's a factor when you think about is this phone really worth what they're charging for it? Well, if it's driving all my smart home capabilities, maybe it is. And all the AI functions that Google has built into all the assistant that they do, that may actually, it's an intangible, but it's still an intangible that actually reflects upon the price. And I think, they tried to do the Pixel Buds. I bought it. I wasn't that impressed. But it's it's a wearable that straight ties into the phone. Like, it literally doesn't work well without the phone. So, they're looking for opportunities to integrate wearables and, AI and all these other segments of the IoT space and wearables that make the device more valuable and help justify these premium ASPs.
And we're seeing the same also with Samsung with Bixby, right? And also with Apple.
Yeah. And Bixby, I mean, Samsung's done a pretty good job of talking about it, but I mean, the reality is they want Bixby in everything. And that's kind of what Google's doing, and they kind of want to, mimic that strategy of let's put Bixby in everything, because if it's in everything, then it makes your phone really useful. Right. Because then you can control everything in your home from your phone. And that's kind of the Google strategy. I think Apple's going to is trying to do that with HomePod and a lot of the other, wearables that they have with the Apple Watch. And I think, AirPods, all those kinds of things, they're starting to integrate into this, coalescing around the smartphone as the core device. And I think you're going to see that keep going and improving and justifying the price of these phones.
Final word?
Well, I would separate wearables and IoT into two separate categories. One, because wearables are, even today, very much attached to the smartphone to some extent. As far as IoT goes, a big consumer electronics players like Samsung have a big advantage. They got TV, they got other home appliances, etc., that go tied to the phone.
I don't want to cut you off, but we're out of time. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Live from Mobile World Congress, this is the news.
Now, the new GSMA Mobile Economy Report is predicting that migration to 4G and 5G networks is gaining speed. 4G is forecast to account for 53% of global connections by 2025, with 5G networks accounting for a further 14%. It's following the launch of the first commercial 5G networks this year. The new study claims that IoT uptake will also flourish, with the number of IoT connections reaching 25 billion by the year 2025. Now,